Good day, folks. Welcome to Application Project 2, Finance 311, Summer 2019. Let's just a brief summary of this project. It's worth 20 points, 20% of your grade. So make sure you give it the attention that 20% of your grade should be. There's 4 distinct parts of the project, and the points and explanation are identified herein. It's due no later than 11:59 p.m. on Friday, June 15th. There's another one that comes right along behind it very quickly. I'll be reviewing and grading them as submitted. I know everybody is very busy, so if you have any questions, do ask. If you submit it early, I'll grade it, and if you want to keep moving because you have a lot to do, be happy to do that. The submission format is PowerPoint. Do your work in Excel and copy paste into the PowerPoint. Use the note section and attach Excel worksheets. You're going to work with the same company. So what you want to do is take what you did for Project 1 and you're going to start to layer in new pieces of information as you go along. By the time you get to this, I will have given you feedback on Project 1. Make sure you incorporate that feedback into Project 2 because you're going to submit the whole thing to me every time, and at the end you're going to have a great report on the company that you're working on. Feel free to use audio and or video if you would like. The purpose of this assignment is for you to do a couple of things. Be able to compute and interpret liquidity ratios, compute and interpret leverage and capital, apply the DuPont ratio, and analyze the income statement. You should have everything out there for the first 3 items as of June 4th, and next week and later this week we'll put more on analyzing the income statement. There is a sample of what the projects look like attached, so it could give you some insight. If you haven't already given me feedback on how the course is doing, please make sure you do so that we can make sure you're getting the best learning experience possible. What are the skills that you can develop? Develop analytical and questioning skills, build Excel skills, and develop presentation skills. So these are skills that'll benefit you no matter what field you do go into. How will the grading be done? Same as last time. Communication and presentation is important. So don't forget to always start with the oldest data to the newest. Accuracy is important, of course. That's 30%. Clarity and depth. Really making sure you understand it by, instead of just giving me a definition, be able to interpret what it means for the company today and then in the future. How are topics integrated? You're going to find that a lot of these topics do come together, so you might want to start thinking about that. The last project is going to have you tie everything out. Part 1, it's worth 4 points, and what I'd like you to do is compute the following ratios for your company for the most 5 recent years, and we're going to focus on liquidity. As I have said, cash flow is the lifeblood of the organization. If you can understand when you're analyzing a company how the cash works, and whether you're working internally to a firm or externally evaluating it, the cash flow is critical. So we use the current ratio, the cash conversion cycle, inventory working capital, and receivables working capital. Now, remember, these all come together to create this concept called liquidity. We just can't look at the quantity of liquidity. We need to look at the timing and the quality of it. So you want to do these 4 and then discuss them from the point of view of quantity, timing, and quality of liquidity. Okay, so that's the first part. It's worth 4. Part 2 is capital ratio and average cost of capital. This is 6 points, a big one. First thing you want to do is, for the past 5 years, show the capital structure of the company in dollars and percent. It's simply saying, and all of this is in the review, but it's basically going to be debt plus equity equals capital, and you show the percentage of that. I'd like you to compute the 5-year cost of capital. For the cost of capital, use 15. Explain how a company might use this information. What would they do with the cost of capital? What's the leverage ratio each year? Comment on what the trend is telling us. Are they more leveraged or less? Show the tangible net worth for the past 5 years. What is the raw number and what is the trend telling us? You might find some interesting things here. Next thing is to compute the debt coverage ratio. And these things will give us a good sense of what's going on with capital and leverage. So we have liquidity, we have the weighted average cost of capital. Next thing to move into is the DuPont analysis. I think this is a very interesting way of approaching it to better understand and interpret what's going on so that management can take certain actions. The first thing you want to do is compute the DuPont analysis. And then for each year, explain the change in ROE by the components. Then create a model that would show what happened in only the most recent year given these changes to your numbers. 1, the company paid a 10% dividend on common equity in the current year. And then a second model that would show what would happen to the ROE if the company increased or reduced assets by 10% in the year. And that will enable us to give you a good understanding of the DuPont analysis. Part 4 is to review and explain changes in the income statement. 6 points. First step is to create a 5-year trend of the revenue sales. So you show each year, you show what the annual growth is, and a 5-year growth. Then I'd like you to explain how the growth happened. But when you do it, I want you to think about the drivers you identified in part 1. So if you talked about something in volumes, you should look and say, how did these volumes cause the sales growth? You got to be specific and granular. Once you've done that, then review the common size income statement. Because once you explain the total, we see the rest in relationship, the rest of the expenses in relationship to the income. So I want you to go through and identify three categories that changed during the period. They're big ones. Don't look at the little small ones. What are the 3 biggest changes? Once you've identified them, explain what happened in detail. 10K should give you most of the answers. So that's the project, part 2. If you have any questions, please let me know, and the sample does follow.